everyone. I'm Jennifer Ho, the Commissioner of Minnesota Housing, and welcome to our Pandemic Press event. You know, today is one of my favorite days of the year. Once a year, every year, we unveil the agency's selections. These create and preserve thousands of affordable homes across the state. We do many important things every day at Minnesota Housing. We help Minnesotans with low incomes get the help they need to buy their first home. We are running a historic COVID-19 housing assistance program that's helping renters and homeowners hang on to their homes and not fall too far behind. But today is special. It's a day when developers, local officials, legislators, and housing allies perk up their ears. Minnesota Housing is sending out a signal about where new housing developments will be landing in the coming years. It's an exciting day for our staff, and it's an exciting day for our state. 2020 has been the most unusual year. Every time we get to do something normal, it feels oddly like a tremendous accomplishment. Of course, in normal times, we'd be meeting together in person in a community room or a gymnasium like we did last year. Next year, we'll be in person once again. So we're in this weird online space. I'll admit it's not nearly as satisfying as being in person, where I could look you in the eye. I'd shake your hand and congratulate you on your selected development, but here we are, keeping one another safe. It's a whole lot more important right now than a handshake. If we were meeting in person, I'd hand the mic over to Governor Tim Walz. Fortunately, he had the chance to record some words for us ahead of time. Governor?
Hi everyone, Governor Tim Walz here. I'm excited to join Minnesota Housing in announcing this year's funding selections and project advancements. 2020 has been a very trying year for all of us. Home has never meant more as we seek stable places to live, raise families, and shelter from the virus. Creating housing and preventing and ending homelessness have been priorities for Lieutenant Governor Flanagan and myself since the moment we took office, and COVID-19 has only deepened our resolve. Today, we're excited to announce a crucial step in the creation and preservation of affordable homes. This year, Minnesota Housing is selecting and advancing dozens of proposed developments that will create and preserve thousands of affordable homes for Minnesotans. These homes will be in every corner of the state, from the Red Lake Nation to St. Cloud, Duluth to the Twin Cities down to Litchfield. This will include affordable homes and apartments for individuals, families, and seniors, including rental and home ownership opportunities. This is a huge step forward as we continue to address the need for affordable housing in our state. Thank you to all the partners who make these investments possible. And thank you to the legislature for passing the bonding bill in October that included $100 million in housing infrastructure bonds. Thank you to the developers for your vision and commitment to creating the homes that we need. And thank you to the housing advocates who continue to push for funding that aligns with the needs of Minnesotans across this great state.
It's a real pleasure to be able to work for Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. They are such strong advocates for safe and stable homes. Every day I get up knowing we have their support. They're thinking about the importance of home, now and always, but especially when all of us are sheltering from an invisible and deadly virus. The governor knows this, and you may know this, but I like to talk about going big so all Minnesotans can go home. And I'm pleased to say this year we are going big, thanks to our partners and staff. Like so many things, the bonding bill this year happened, 2020 style. It could easily not have passed at all, but it did. The legislature went big on housing this year. So let's take a moment to celebrate. We got $100 million in housing infrastructure bonds. Woohoo! Housing infrastructure bonds are one of the most critical funding tools that we have to create deeply affordable housing. The availability of housing infrastructure bonds is critical to us going big. The bonding bill passed in October, just at the point when we were beginning to think there would be no bonding bill at all this year. So this is great news. It may have thrown my team for a loop, but to their credit, they said, we know how we can get this done. And they were tremendously resourceful. Here we are on December 17th. Indeed, we have selections, and we have something new this year called project advancements. With the bonding bill passed just in October rather than in May, we've made an initial review, but not final selections for the majority of our housing infrastructure bond proposals. For this reason, you'll hear us talking about projects advancing for further review, which refers to these developments. But as I've said to my team, better to go big at the last minute than never to go big at all. So let's turn to what we're here for, Minnesota Housing's 2020 funding selections and advancements. Today, we are announcing $195 million towards the creation and preservation of affordable housing in Minnesota. These state and federal investments will create and preserve almost 2,400 affordable homes throughout the state. These developments will support 5,300 jobs and will leverage additional private and local resources of $529 million in total development costs. Each of the projects included in our announcement was selected through a single common application process. In addition to Minnesota Housing, funding partners, the Met Council, Ramsey County, and the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund are also anticipated to make selections for funding for one or more of these developments. Now let's turn to the single-family selections. Today, we're pleased to announce that we have selected 40 projects that will create and preserve almost 400 single-family homes. These homes will be built and rehabbed in regions across the state. Our $18.5 million will be used to build new single-family homes, fix up old homes in need of repair, and turn them into affordable housing for another generation. Help people afford to buy a home with down payment assistance, and help them close the gap to what they can afford. Help people stay in their homes when they need to make improvements that they can't afford, and provide resources that help tribal members achieve and maintain home ownership. The funds will support the projects of our 40 successful applicants, which include a range of organizations, including local units of government, tribal entities, nonprofit housing developers, and community land trust organizations. With the October bonding bill, we also received a new eligible use of housing infrastructure bonds that expands our ability to finance single-family developments and rehab with the bonds. We're able to put this expanded use into action in this selection towards the community land trust proposals. Community land trusts are a unique model that preserve the affordability of the home, and thus are some of the most permanent affordable housing that we support. We'll be able to support even more community land trust developments in 2021. I'd like to give you a glimpse of one of the single-family selections we're making and the difference it will make for new home buyers in Southwest Minnesota. United Community Action Partnership will build 5 new affordable homes in Litchfield and Eden Valley. These will include large family housing with 3 and even 4 bedrooms. UCAP, as they're called, has built 11 homes in Southwest Minnesota over the last 5 years. And last week, I had a chance to talk to one of the new home buyers in one of these homes named Anna. Let's take a look.
And my realtor told me about some of the options for getting a loan and gave me some names to work with. And she was awesome. She really helped make the process go a lot more smoothly for me since I've had no experience buying a house at all or anything with a loan process. So that was really helpful to have a good realtor that knew what she was doing and could give me some advice on that stuff. But yeah, so pretty much jumped right into finding a loan and was able to find an option that I thought would work, and actually the payment would be about the same as the nice apartments in town that I wanted to go to. So it just seemed like a lot better opportunity to invest my money instead of throwing it to rent that you're never probably going to get back.
That's great. I was 35 when I bought my home, so you're getting a great head start. We wanted to talk with you because United Community Action Partnership, which helped do this, is doing a similar project in Litchfield that we're highlighting today. So now that you've been in your home now, and you did all this in the middle of a pandemic, but now that you're in your home, just what does home mean to you?
To me, it's just having my own place that I can say is mine, and it's really like rewarding to tell people, yeah, I bought my own house at 22 years old. Like, that's something I never ever even imagined. I didn't even consider that, but it is possible, and it is something to think about, and that kind of is a cool thing that I'm able to tell people about that, and they're like, how did you do that? And it's something that it is. You don't have to be, 40 years old and buy a house. You can, or be married or anything like that. You can do that for yourself. So to me, One was just having my own place that I can call mine and do whatever I want with it. I've had so much fun decorating and landscaping and all of that kind of thing. Putting up my Christmas lights, I was just out doing that before this. So that's just really having my own place is very meaningful to me.
It was a real delight to talk to Anna and hear what buying a home means to her. But next, we're going to turn to our multifamily selections. Again, for multifamily, we have two categories, projects that are selected and projects that are advancing for further consideration. Today, I am pleased to announce we have 22 selections and 11 advancing projects. Together, these developments will create and preserve more than 2,000 multifamily units, such as apartments and townhomes. These homes will be built and rehabbed in regions across the state. Our $168 million will be used to build new multifamily developments that will create nearly 1,000 new homes in apartments and townhome settings. We'll preserve the condition and affordability of existing multifamily developments. We'll create housing that serves high-priority households that have experienced homelessness. We'll create multifamily homes designated for people with disabilities and create rental homes for seniors with very low incomes. We selected 22 developments out of the 81 that submitted, which means we received 3 to 4 times the requests for funding that we can support. And I want you to know there were an awful lot of excellent proposals amongst the ones that we couldn't select. Many demonstrated strong community support, and they all represent a tremendous amount of work by the applicants. To you, I just want to say thank you. Of the developments we selected across the state, I'm also pleased to report that half are in the metro and half are in greater Minnesota. And we're advancing an additional 11 projects with the 2020 consolidated RFP that are anticipated to create or preserve 615 rental homes that are affordable in communities across the state. Without the bonding bill, these projects would not be advancing forward in 2020. One of the projects that we're advancing is proposed by Beacon Interfaith Housing Collaborative. They're a leader in the metro area in developing supportive housing. For those who don't know, supportive housing refers to buildings that provide not just apartments, but counselors and staff on site who work with the residents who may be struggling with chronic medical and behavioral health issues. Beacon has proposed a new supportive housing development in Hopkins called Vista 44. I had the honor of speaking last week with Jessica, who's a resident of a Beacon property that's really similar to the future Vista 44. She was kind enough to share her story with me. What has having a stable home meant to you and your boys? What's it made possible?
Made roots. Having roots in this area, in this community, is so important because before that, we didn't have nothing. I was in a shelter. I didn't have no real job. That, for example, right now, well, when I came out of that shelter, I was in a helper teacher in a daycare. Then I was a helper, like I working at daycare, but I had to leave it. But now I'm already working on my 6th year at Minneapolis Public School District, working with the Department of Culinary and Wellness Service. And now because of the pandemic, I cannot be with the kids in the schools and everything, but I'm at the center where everything happens, like the food and everything. And having this home have helped me get that job and also keep it, and also having the boys have a stable school, like be at school in one school at a time, not having to move around. from school to school. So that has helped a lot.
Your boys were young when you were homeless. Do they remember being homeless, or are most of their memories now around this house, this home?
It's, I want to say it's half and half. They remember being at the day center, already families moving forward. They remember going into the bus, going into the churches and having dinner at different places, playing around and trying to be like cautious because we were at a church. And but yeah, they do remember.
What advice do you have for people who are building communities like the one that you live in?
The thing is just help people out. Don't keep to yourself, but mostly is don't be greedy.
Good advice. Really good advice.
Don't be greedy. Don't look at the people's color of the skin or anything like that. Everybody is human. Everybody is going through a hard time. Even before this pandemic just have come to kind of make everything else harder as it was. But just help each other.
I think
because it's a better way to live a life than being empty.
Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and I wish the best for you and for both your boys.
And you're welcome, Jennifer. I love doing this, sharing my story with other people and sharing what have been for me all these 10 years, having a stable home and more buildings. If it's possible, 50 should be built every year so that families can have a normal holiday, a normal Thanksgiving, Easter, Mother's Day, any holiday possible. And that's one of the things that we have had these 10 years. And I'm very thankful for everything that you're doing also with Beacon, because of people like you, I got into this apartment. So thank you.
Well, we both believe in the same thing. Everybody should have their own home that they can afford, that's a place that they want to be, and you can send your kids to school and not have to worry about where you're going home to. So I'm really glad that this has worked out for you, and thank you so much for using your story to help motivate other people to do more. Really grateful, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Wow, I'm just so humbled and moved by Jessica's words. She reminds us how powerful home is, something we should never, ever take for granted. Jessica grounds us in our mission and the need to do deeply affordable work. We have to be intentional in meeting the housing needs of Black, Indigenous, and people of color in Minnesota who have been historically underserved in the housing market. Here to talk about the equity impact of our selections and advancements is the state's best housing ally, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan.
Housing is health. It's the foundation for success, a safe place to be, a springboard for opportunity. This has never been more clear than it is now during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Minnesota has been grappling with a housing crisis for a long time, a crisis that falls hardest on the shoulders of Black communities, Native communities, and communities of color. That's why I'm proud of the 2020 selections made by Minnesota Housing to chart the future of the state's housing investments, made with equity at the center. Centering equity means considering geography, income targets, racial inclusion, and who is served by the affordable homes the state supports when making these decisions. And that intentionality shows when we look at the 2020 selections. We know that every region of the state, every community faces housing challenges. This year, I'm pleased to report the selections are split approximately half and half between the Twin Cities and Greater Minnesota, with a few more of the single-family homes in the metro. We want to direct resources where the need is greatest by developing units that are deeply affordable, meaning accessible to households below 30% of the area median income. Almost a third of the units developed will be affordable to Minnesotans at that level. These selections also include more than 500 multifamily units that will directly support the Heading Home Together action plan to prevent and end homelessness. Many of these apartment units will provide permanent supportive housing for our relatives and neighbors who have experienced homelessness. We also consider special populations with unique housing needs when making selections, such as seniors, people with disabilities, and large families, each with different housing needs and requirements. The agency is supporting 119 units to serve people with disabilities in 18 properties this year, and potentially hundreds of units of housing for seniors with very low incomes. 8 projects will create large homes that have 4 or more bedrooms to serve larger families. More than half of the single-family impact fund selections serve Black, Indigenous, and people of color in 2020. We strive to reduce the homeownership disparity, and these homes will be marketed to Black, Indigenous, and households of color. We want the state partners to represent the communities that they serve. I'm pleased to share that half of single-family project selections include businesses led or owned by Black, Indigenous, people of color, and/or women. On the multifamily side, almost 90% of the selected projects have women or BIPOC entities on their development teams. I'm grateful to all of our housing partners who prioritize the diverse needs of Minnesotans so that they can live in safe, stable home that they can afford.
If you don't know, the Lieutenant Governor leads the Minnesota Interagency Council on Homelessness. She is so passionate about preventing and ending homelessness. And the deeply affordable homes we're able to support today are a key piece of preventing and ending homelessness. The selections of single-family and multifamily home developments that we're announcing today are a big part of what Minnesota Housing does each year, but not the only thing that we do. In 2020, we selected an additional $16 million through Minnesota Housing's other loan and grant requests for proposal. When all of those loans and grants in 2020 are combined, we reach a total of 3,500 homes that will be created and preserved because of our selections. This includes our single-family impact fund programs, multifamily and single-family workforce housing development programs, programs that support development in rural communities, and support for manufactured housing. All of those selections, combined with today's announcement of selections and advancements, brings us to $211 million in 2020. And this number doesn't even include the agency's single-family first mortgage program and down payment assistance programs, which broke another record this year. We are so pleased to have made this progress. This is a tremendous step forward for Minnesota, and I commend our development partners, funding partners, housing allies, and staff for all their work to get us to this point in this most unusual year. And yet, we know it's not enough. There are Minnesota communities that haven't built a new housing unit in years, especially in Greater Minnesota. Our state has tremendous rehab needs in order to keep the affordable housing we do have in good condition for years to come. Tragically, we know that people are still sleeping outside in communities across the state. Your commitment to building and maintaining housing that Minnesotans can afford is what we need. I am so grateful to work by your side to build the robust housing ecosystem that Minnesota needs to thrive. So thank you to the legislature for your historic investment. Thank you to the developers for going big with your requests. And thank you to the staff at Minnesota Housing for your dedication and long hours and your ability to incorporate new housing infrastructure bonds that came 5 months after they would in a typical year. For more information about all of this year's selections and advancements, please visit our website, mnhousing.gov. Thanks for joining us, as it were, for this announcement. We'll see you next year.